So I wanted to do a video to support my last two posts for my Psychology Today blog. They were posted about a week ago was the second one, and a week before that the first one. The first one was called "What is your COVID-19 story?" and the second one was called "The Existential Crisis You Are or Should Be Having." One of the commonalities between the two, besides the pandemic that is affecting the world currently, is my goal is for people to use this crisis as an opportunity for growth, especially to look at who they want to be, which is a big subject in my writing. Like choosing who you're going to be rather than acting out of conditioning and history and biases, which the first reading focuses to a large extent on the biases that might have affected people's behavior early during the pandemic before it was taken, especially in America, before it was taken as seriously as it's being taken. Um, I know I fell victim to a couple of them. The first I fell victim to is uh, the fundamental attribution error, which I've written about before. I love this. This is one of my favorite cognitive distortions to explain. It's basically when I do something, it's a mistake, it's situational. But when other people do something, it's their character. The easiest way to explain that is driving. Like when I make a mistake, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, it was just a mistake. I'm really not a horrible driver. Or I attribute it to being late, if I had to go faster or around somebody or whatever, or just the situation. When someone else does it, I'm like, look at this, fill in whatever expletive you'd like at that point. I try to be creative with them when I'm thinking them. Um, but I'm attributing it more to who they are as a person rather than a situation they might be experiencing. And with the pandemic, the thing I did is when I saw people taking it seriously, I was like, all right, those are the people that panic. Like, those are the people that worry about these types of things, and that's not the kind of person I am. So that kept me from taking it seriously. The second, and probably more important one, was normalcy bias. I expected that, like other pandemics I've heard about over my lifespan, this would also have been kind of, I don't want to say overblown. That doesn't feel right to say, but it's kind of what I'm thinking, like bird flu and some of the others that I've experienced where people are freaking out about it, and it's definitely a deadly thing for a certain population or a certain country, but it never really had a direct effect on me. So I expect my life to continue going on normally despite this pandemic. That's normalcy bias. And of course, we've all found out that isn't happening, right? Like our life did not continue as normal. So those two biases, as well as learned helplessness, like hearing people say it is a big deal, people hearing people say it's not a big deal, like the constant changing in the beginning of what we should do, seemed to make it feel like, well, what's the difference? Also, how they talked about initially it was it's on your hands, you have to wash your hands a certain way, a certain amount of time, all of that, but then it was in the air, then it was everywhere. So it was like, how am I even going to avoid this? So that's learned helplessness, where you feel like nothing can be done, so why do anything? That's just a brief. There's other cognitive distortions at play also, but those are the three I feel related to me, and I can make most relatable to you. And then at the end of that first post, I encourage people to create who they're going to be in response to this. Like, stop falling victim to your cognitive biases and decide who you're going to be. There's I think I say a multitude of templates, right? Like, you can be some sort of hero, or you can be, I don't know, someone who recreates their life. And that kind of brings me to the second one, which kind of built on the first one, which was existential crisis. And I talk about why I wrote that at the very beginning. It was like three different things came together at the same time. The whole point is a crisis can be an opportunity for growth. So here we all are facing this global crisis, and what are we going to do? Like, how are we going to reevaluate our lives and our goals and who we want to be, and what's important to us, and how are we going to make lasting change because of it? And that's kind of what the second post is about, although it talks to some degree about the four major aspects of existential psychotherapy, according to Yalom, which are death anxiety, freedom, and with freedom comes responsibility. So I have freedom to make choices, but I also have to be responsible for those choices. Isolation, which is very relatable in this time. A lot of us are experiencing isolation. And a lot of people are experiencing loneliness. I've heard at least three podcasts, I think. Three podcasts I listen to regularly that have dealt with loneliness during this pandemic. And then last, meaninglessness, or meaning. Like, what meaning am I creating from this crisis? Like, how am I going to make this meaningful in my life? So, the point of those, which I hope you read, I don't think this video is an adequate explanation of all the topics encapsulated in the writing, but hopefully it spurs some interest. And even if this is all you do, it helps you reflect on, what do I value, what do I want, what am I going to do, and how am I going to make use of this crisis and create a better version of myself from it. All right, thanks for watching.